Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to TraderMerlin show. Microphone's working, my camera's working. I did test to make sure it all was running smoothly today. Hopefully, no errors. I figured out what it was. I'm running dual cameras on my computer just in case one of them drops. I had the backup, and the other camera was just taking over resources and creating all kinds of problems. So, anyway, we should be good to go today. Sorry to say, everyone, but the 49ers are going to... Oh, bring it on, Mike. Bring it on. We can have that debate. It's going to be a good game. It won't be raining, which means Brock Purdy's going to dominate. So I'll take a wager on that one, Mike. We're going to do a weekend in Vegas. Is that what the wager will be? No fair because you get cheap airfare. All right. Anyway, let's start off with our show for today. I'm going to focus on the topic du jour, which everyone is, I'm sure, very interested in, which is this one here, Tesla's earnings. Now, I asked AI to make me a graphic of a Tesla crashing and prices going down, and this is what it came up with, which I thought was actually a pretty cool image. I actually like this one a lot. Not that it's crashing, it's just maybe hit a little bit of a rocky road, sitting on some gold bricks, by the way, just so you know. Anyway, let's go look at the chart of Tesla here so we can talk about some of their numbers, what's been going on with them, and all in all, what's the story for Tesla. So here's the chart of Tesla. So you can see on the daily time frame, we closed at 207.83, which was just slightly down on the day. Now, seems to be a bit worse. We are down 2.68% as we speak right now. Here's a 1 minute so you can see what happened in the after hours. I don't need to upgrade. There we go. Your initial popcorn trade, which, I always love to use my graphic here. Thank you, Tim, for the popcorn trade of the day graphic. This is why I call it the popcorn trade of the day, because in a very short period of time, you had Tesla from its peak there at 210.91 to its low of 195. You're talking a 7.5% move. Now it's calmed down a little bit, but the numbers for Tesla weren't that great. Now, let's be honest. I think most people here expected that. Let me just say, how many of you expected Tesla to beat earnings on their call today? Just a show of hands. Maybe I can do a vote. Hold on, let me do a vote here. We don't have that many people here, but let me just start a poll. How many expected Tesla to beat earnings? All right, I'm just going to go yes or no. All right, start that poll just for fun. Why not? Initially, from the onset, I would look at this and go, I did not expect Tesla to beat earnings or even come close to it, because they've been cutting for the last year. The price of their vehicles are getting cut and cut and cut. And of course, that's ultimately going to eat into overall profits. So just on sheer volume of number of vehicles sold, I kind of maybe expected that to continue to increase, but the actual profit made to decline a little bit because the cost per vehicle, they've been losing so much there. And that was kind of my thinking. Of course, I did not make a Tesla play today. I did not want to take that kind of risk. I've been pretty risk averse lately. Of course, I say that I've been an iRobot in Spirit Airlines, talking about risk averse, right? So that was my thinking going into this. I thought that they would probably miss, but I really wasn't going to take that chance. My gamble days are over. So where does that put us right now for Tesla? Well, you notice this blue box on the right-hand side of my screen. That's where we are right now. I can get rid of some of these other graphics just so we don't need them on our screen. And at 201.32 is where we're presently sitting. Notice that's kind of right near this low that goes back to November of last year, right? October, November of last year, we hit a low price right around, let me get the exact number for you, 194.07 was that low from October, and we're pretty darn close to that now. Now, that is the lowest price that it's been for since May of 2023. Long time since it's been below that price. And we'll see if it gets below it tomorrow, depending on what some comments that are made from the execs, including Elon Musk, may sway what happens there with Tesla. But there are a couple numbers we should look at to see what actually happens. So some of the Tesla numbers that I gleaned from the reports were they expected there to be 74 cents worth of earnings per share. Industry accepted that, and they actually came out at 71. So depending who you talk to, 74, 75 cents seem to be kind of that number. According to Zacks research, which I have over here, you can see Tesla reported 71 cents, but Zacks was expecting 75, and other companies reporting 74. So all in all, they missed expectations. Now, why? A large part of it, of course, coming due to prices. But here's some of their numbers. Revenue. They earned $25.17 billion versus $25.6. So they slight decline on revenue. And auto revenue increased just 1% from earlier in the year. from a year earlier. That's not a good number. Obviously, for this company to continue to have growth, you need to see growth numbers. And 1%, while it is growth, doesn't even keep up with the cost of inflation, technically, that most of us are suffering through. Big wager in the Niners. A cup of tea at Starbucks. Done. We could do that. So, yeah, all in all, what does this mean for the markets going forward? Well, remember, this is your second of the Magnificent Seven, right? First one, Netflix reported, hallelujah. I mean, blowout earnings. We'll look at the Netflix chart right now and then go back to our Tesla. But NFLX, great day today, finishing up 10.7% on that earnings announcement. Although I will say, you had a great shooting star tomorrow. As Skilled Stocksman says here, he says, waiting to play the NQ futures on that shooting star tomorrow. Yeah, me too. You know, I fought every urge in my system. I literally had the platforms up. I had multiple platforms running, and I was looking at Microsoft. I was going to not even sell puts. I was going to buy puts directionally because I think a correction is coming. I think a pullback on this breakout of all-time highs is going to come, and you have a shooting star on a lot of these big Magnificent Seven stocks, including the NASDAQ, which I'll bring up here as well. So pretty interesting day, at least in my opinion, tomorrow. I think you're going to have a pretty good down day on most of these markets. You know, you had Microsoft breach that $3 trillion market cap and formed a nice shooting star too. So we'll look at that in just a second. But yeah, I did not short the market today. I wanted to, but I'd rather just let it follow through. And if it starts to do it tomorrow, then I'll jump on and leave some money on the table, but capture a little bit of it. So let me show you this one here. Netflix, obviously, nice push up for the market today. But remember, it's not that big of an influence. If you look at the capitalization weightings and also its impact on the indexes, NASDAQ isn't in that top. Not NASDAQ. Netflix isn't in the top 10. So let me real quickly bring up this number here. We'll go to NASDAQ 100 weightings, just so we can see what those numbers look like. I should have this on a quick access one, but I do not. So here you go. So you look at Netflix. You know, Netflix is way down here on the list. Why am I not finding it? Did I pass it? I thought it was way down there. Yeah, there it is, 14. I passed it. So it's 14th on the list. Represents 1.6%. So all in all, great. That's nice that it had such a great day to influence the markets up. But notice what's sitting there at number 7. You've got Tesla at 3% of the NASDAQ 100. So almost double the weighting of Netflix. So even though Netflix was great and helped the markets up today, Tesla really could have a big impact on it down tomorrow if it sells off even more than this. So keep your eye on Tesla tomorrow. You know, I have this bullish bias for the market over the next few days, and Tesla is probably going to be that catalyst that pulls this thing down. Remember, next week we have even more big name Magnificent Seven companies coming out, including Microsoft, which will be an interesting one. What is VBMet? Haven't all been adjusting forecasts since the state of the recession? Yep, exactly. Under promise, over deliver. That's what's been happening. And I don't know if Tesla has necessarily been under promising and over delivering. You know, they certainly have some headwinds with all the competition coming into the space. However, you know, if you believe what you read in the media, a lot of these car companies, except for Rivian, the EV companies, are struggling. You know, the bad news about Ford and saying it's failed venture to do the Cybertruck thing for Ford. I don't know about that. I know we have a lot of people in here that hate Ford and not liking Ford, but I still like the Ford Lightning. I'm going to reserve judgment until I actually buy one. All right, so here's the end of our poll for Tesla. How many expected Tesla to beat earnings today? 39 said yes, 60% said no. Okay, well. And did anybody short it? Anybody have the guts to go short on Tesla today? I didn't. All right, so going back to our original statement, what's going to be the impact on your markets tomorrow? This will be a factor that's talked about. It'll be all the headlines. We'll talk about Tesla missing earnings. Even though Netflix beat, Tesla's a much bigger household name. To me, that'll be the talk track for tomorrow, and that negativity, I think, will push these markets lower. Don't worry, we have some more earnings coming up, just nothing as big as Tesla for the remainder of this week, going into Thursday and Friday. So, chart-wise, what's it doing to our markets as we speak? Well, let's go look at those NASDAQ futures here, which obviously is going to have a nice impact from your Tesla news. Here's your daily, and let's go into a 5 minutes so we can see what happened after the close. It actually sold off a little bit, but starting to rally back up. It's picking up a little bit of steam, and again, I'm delayed, but it was selling off going into the close, sold off a little bit on that Tesla announcement, and now rallying back up a little bit here. So all in all, the chart doesn't look horrible, at least not being that impacted by Tesla. Now, if I look at this on the daily, there is your shooting star. And we've talked about this one quite a bit. Let me get rid of a bunch of these lines and move that one to right here. Get my snap on the screen so I can give you the exact price. And I'll also do this on the triple Qs for you. If you look at the short price for tomorrow, meaning if we get below this number tomorrow on the NASDAQ futures, there's a great, at least in my opinion, short opportunity for broader markets. That's going to be if we get a break down below, it looks like 1752 and a quarter. Now that's just, it's got to open up somewhere above that and then start to break down. That's true. It's not red. It was a green one. Liz says, I put on a protective put ends of the day to hedge my long position. Smart. I think that's a pretty smart idea. I think it's a good call, Liz, because I have a feeling Tesla's going to start to get some pain tomorrow just because of market and this mass herd behavioral psychology. So let's go to triple Qs, because I know most of you are more into the Qs, even though the NASDAQ futures are better. This one is red. Right? We take out some of the aftermarket, and it changes things quite a bit. However, you still have a shooting star on the triple Qs. That number is $425.33. So if we open up tomorrow above that, and then come below it, there's your shorting opportunity for the day. Says Guild Stockman. Yeah, not sandbagging. That's just what the business does. That's just it. You don't love that shooting star? I'm not a big fan of the one on the Qs. It's all right. I like the fact that we gapped up like this. So we've got the gap up, and then you have that shooting star. Fine. We'll talk about the other markets here in just a second as I run through them. Actually, let me just sort these out right now. We'll just do it right now. All right. So that said, I think you're going to see the impact of Tesla on these markets today, bringing this down tomorrow. We shall see what happens on Thursday's session, because anything can happen between now and market open tomorrow. Let me run through our top 8 here. Russell 2000, your worst performer. Now, someone asked me yesterday, not on the show, but texted me and asked me if I thought this was a shooting star on the Russell. And I said no. I didn't think that yesterday's was a shooting star, more of a spinning top, really, where you have tops and topping tails and bottoming tails. Today's a bit of a different story, right? We rallied up to almost the exact same high as yesterday on the Russell before just giving it up. And our intraday chart here is great if you're a bearish individual, because you had that big surge up, you had it hesitate, and all of a sudden came screaming back down right on that market open. We'll talk about the economic data as well, which will be a factor in some of this move here in that Russell. So Russell down 0.87% today, even though the daily chart looks absolutely terrible. We take a step back out here and look at the bigger picture. Still looks like it's in an uptrend, still looks intact, even though the past few weeks have been trending to the downside. Here's gold, going the opposite direction of my silver today. Thank you very much. Gold was down 0.48%. Nothing technical here. You guys it looks like it's just kind of consolidating, chopping back and forth. No big deal. I still am of the opinion that we're going to get back down towards that 1987 mark, which we got ever so close to back in December. Now, just for giggles here, here's your silver. It looked a lot better earlier in the day. We're up over $21, which was fantastic. Of course, I've got a lot of silver, but gave back a bunch of that during the day. You can see that it's just a big red candle on today's session. Not the best looking chart. Granted, the gain was much better than gold today, but the trend really since November of last year has been pretty decisively down. So if not feeling that optimistic, $19 seems to be the target for silver here, which I will probably sell some more puts and collect more premium and maybe own some more silver if we get that low. All right, I guess we're doing 9 things because that was gold and silver together. Dollar index, while you had a big range today on it, you ended up with a decent-sized red body, but that long bottoming tail. That tells me a couple things. When I look at what's going on with the dollar index today, it really feels like there is support for the dollar because we had drifted lower. We made new lows over the past 5 days, but came right back up and pushed it higher. So there are buyers for the dollar out there on pullbacks, which is what that chart is telling me. All in all, that does speak volumes to the dollar moving to the upside, which would further support my argument for the markets dropping tomorrow, or at least over the next few days, maybe even a week or so. Let's see. Okay, go ahead. 10-year. 10-year actually surged up. Again, it rolled over, so I'm not getting to see the new data, or I'm seeing the new data. It moved up today 1.17, which actually would have made it your second best performer on the day. That, again, is another factor why I'm thinking this markets could be facing some trouble. Now, let's bring on a supply zone here, which, bonds operate very differently than equities. But if I was to look at where's my next logical target for this 10-year to go to, it's in that yellow band, which notice how perfectly would line up with this downtrending blue line. So while I am somewhat bullish on the 10-year right now, because it's making higher highs, higher lows, I do expect there to be some difficulty on this right between, let's call it 4.25% and 4.3%. 4.25 to 4.3. All right, that is the ES, or sorry, that's your 10-year. Here's the ES, and sitting in 4th place. Now this shooting star I like. Now, this is more my style. I would have preferred to gap up into it, but I do love the way that this one formed. I'll get rid of this yellow box because I don't think it's necessary right now. Your number for tomorrow, if you're trading ES, is going to be, if it gets down below that number right there, which is 4,889 on the ES. I like it. USD needs an uptrend line. Let's do it. It's a little bit tricky here. Now, this is, yeah, you know, we've broken that downtrend, at least in my opinion, because we now started making higher highs. So you're right, Margaret. Uptrend line would be good. The challenge with this is, where do we do it, right? Most people say where you go through most points of contact, which is how I believe it should be done. Well, if I do that, this picture doesn't look great. It looks like we're still maintaining it. I went from the very low here on December. Let me zoom in a little bit so you guys can all see this one. I went from the very low here on December 28th, which is the anchor point, and I went through that tail that was on January 12th, right? The lower tail. Well, you notice that today we actually went down below that one and then moved back up above it. So you could argue that that's your trend line right there. I'll do a different one, which is another school of thought, which is you go through the bodies of the candles, which would put us through right about there. And I'll change the color here so we can kind of make arguments and let you guys tell me what you think of each one. So I think that's red. So those are kind of the two places that you could put your trend lines here. You've got the red one, which is through the bodies. You've got the blue line, which is through the tails, although it has a violation because of this most recent tail. And then the third option would be you just go through the tails, which puts you right there, and I will make this a different color as well. So curious which one you guys think is the best. Do you like the... I think that's black. So let's go. Those are the three possibilities here for trend lines. You've got the red one, you've got the blue one, you got the black one. Which one would you use? Which line do you feel is most relevant on this time frame? And again, I don't personally believe there's a right answer. It's just curious to know your style and kind of how you view things. Red, blue, or black? What do you pick? Let me know. I could certainly make arguments for two of them. One of them I think kind of is, I don't think that I would be using one of them, but just curious what you guys are using, what you would be interested in, and how you might draw those trend lines. Anybody? Red, blue, or black? No? All right. Margaret says red. Lisa says I'd use the black. All right. Well, so I got 2 for red, 1 for black. I think the done style is done is the black using the tails. I'm of the camp of actually the blue, and I'll explain why. It's just because I can't ignore this lower bottom tail. I know some people like to use the bodies. I generally go by where I see most points of contact. Janie says blue to future. So we got a pretty good mix here, and I like it. This is why trading works, everybody, because we're all looking at slightly different things. And in this example, it's difficult. The most obvious one is the black one because you're just connecting those 2 points. But the problem here with the black line is it's not a trend line at this point, because a trend line, you have to have 2 points to make the line and then the third point for confirmation. So technically, the black line in here is not a trend line. If you're going by straight textbook, don't shoot the messenger, read the book by Martin Pring. You have to have 1 point to start the line, 2 points to make the line, and the third point confirms the line according to most technical analysis books. So by that letter of the law, that black line technically isn't a trend line. Now, I'm not discounting it. I think you can still absolutely use it. I mean, the whole point here is each one of these lines shows us that prices are moving up, period. That's what we really want to know. What it can be used for is triggers, right? So if you're looking for a place to get out or a potential buy point, these trend lines could become significant. So Liz says black is factual, anything else is subjective depending on what time frame you draw it on. Or more importantly, Liz, not that it's factual because hit those 2. If I take that black one out, let me see if I can just hide it. It won't let me hide it. I'll just move it over. If I take that out and I go to, let's say, the blue line here, right? We'll just use the blue one. That's factual as well because it hit once here on December. It hit once in November. or sorry, January, excuse me. It actually hit again yesterday, and now we hit it but broke through it. So, I personally don't believe that a trend line represents supply or demand. To me, that's horizontal stuff, not trending and dynamic. So today's long bottoming tail on that dollar would ruin that technically, but I still abide by it because it hasn't closed below it, right? It hasn't closed below it. Kerry says enter on the 3rd. You could, certainly. And again, what are these important for? These are important because it gives you rules to go by, right? So I personally like the blue one because it gives me the tail. I got that second touch, which is, as Liz would say, that's factual. It's very clear. Now it's subjective because it's been violated, right? It's a little bit like iffy. If I take that and I just get that red one back on there, well, this one is very subjective because you're just going through the bodies. However, if you look at it, it's actually it's respecting the line the most if you go by a body, meaning that the candle bodies, there has not been a close below that line. That one looks pretty damn good, right? So I can't fault anybody for choosing any line. I think just it's important that whatever line you decide to choose, that you stick to those rules and don't modify it, don't switch along the way. So anyway, there should be a decisive close below the trend line. There should, exactly, which is why I still, in my mind, I think that the red line and the blue line are both valid here because we have not had a close below that trend line. Is the dollar index inverse Bitcoin? No. I think at this point, those relationships between the dollar and Bitcoin, I don't think they've honestly been established. It's too random. There usually is a big correlation, and I don't know. Let me see if MRCI, More Research, has it, which is a great resource for you guys. I know I've shared this with you before, but if you're looking for correlations between different markets, MRCI is a great one. Let me bring it over here. Boy, it's been a long time since I used this one. Commodity quotes, is that what it was? I think it was commodity quotes. And then you scroll down here. Oh boy, where was it? Great, now I don't remember where it was. There used to be a comparison tables, but I don't remember where that one was. I used to go directly to it, but they've changed their site a little bit here since I last used it. So I'll have to find that one for you again. But finding out what relationship that is to Bitcoin, you can do obviously by just looking at this. So if you look at that dollar chart, what I could do is I could add to this. This is BTXY. Let me add to, let's go BTC/USD. And let that bring it up for me. We'll use, which Bitstamp? We'll use Coinbase on this one. Okay. And I got to put this on the other axis because it's not going to work this way. Clearly no correlation between this. I have to modify this chart, but I personally don't think that there is a relationship between the two. I know a lot of people think that there is, but right now I don't see that correlation. It seems like one day it is, and next day it's not. Yeah, Lisa, everyone is changing their websites. Don't you hate that? You get so used to a product or service. Skills at free futures research. That's what I thought it was under. Oh, is it just that far down here? Oh, yeah, it's way down here. Okay. It used to be up at the very top. They probably don't want you to be using it. And intermarket correlations. And I don't know if they've added Bitcoin. They should add Bitcoin on here, but let's see. Do I see Bitcoin futures on there? Wow. Nope, they have not added Bitcoin futures on this one yet. Maybe at some point in the near future they will. But once they do, then you can see what the relationship between the dollar and Bitcoin is over time, which I think is a great, it would be nice to know, but personally I think it just keeps changing so fast that I don't really pay too much attention to that. I think it's more equity markets. I feel like if the equity markets start to sell off, that's going to be good for crypto because it'll be that flight to security. I know it seems weird to call Bitcoin security, but move your capital somewhere, and they're not going to go to the bond market right now, that's for sure. All right, and I didn't even make it to the top of the list. We got stymied right here on the S&P with that shooting star, and that sparked a bunch of discussion, which I think is good. I'm happy with the discussion. I like it a lot. Podium time, though. NASDAQ. Aha. There we go. So you have this on the NASDAQ. We look at this one. You've got a green little body here on today's candle. It is a shooting star, but notice we also had one 2 days ago. Right? We had one on Monday that did not follow through. It actually would have gotten you into the trade, and then ripped you right back out of it. So not the best example on Monday's shooting star, even though it was after a beautiful run up in price. We got another one today. So follow the rules, wait for a break down below of today's low, and then potentially short that one on the NASDAQ, which is up 0.51% today, driven, I think, in good part to Netflix and optimism in tech and that continuing chip rally. But I think Tesla's going to bring that back and give it a little bit more pain tomorrow. Crude oil, number 2 on our list, 0.97%. We are slowly drifting up, liking it, feeling much more bullish on oil. Again, we've got to get above 76.18. I think you guys can all see that, right? It's pretty clear. We feel like we're consolidating right now, but ever since these December lows of last year, building strength. It's making higher lows. And you guys are going to look at my trend lines here, and they weren't drawn in the right place. If you go right there, I think some of you would look at that and go, that's where it is. I love it right there. Right, Liz? I'm sure it's looking at this going, I'm going with that one. It's factual. You've got 1, 2, 3 points. So this lower trend line is much better. We could modify this, obviously, but right now I think we're looking at a situation like this, where you have that high is remaining the same right at 76.18, and you got those lows are getting higher and higher. That's the important part. Based off our previous discussion, I could do something like this and go through the real bodies. Either way, both line is telling us pretty much the same picture, right? That we're seeing this, the buyers come back in and looking good. Yeah, I know, Liz. I was just checking. I thought maybe they'd update it to include Bitcoin. At some point, they will put in Bitcoin on their list. They have to. It's such a popular instrument now, and now that we have the ETFs, it'll get better and better. So yeah, I like crude oil, but I need to close above 76.18 on the CL futures. Once that happens, then I think $80.82 will be your next target. So a nice $4 pop. Plus, if we get above 76.18, love it. I did that just for you, Liz. I knew you were gonna be like, give me that blue one. Look at that, right through the tails. Hey, and I'm not wrong in saying both of these could work for you. The bottom line is it's giving you a perspective of what's going on with prices. Prices are getting higher, meaning the low end is not getting as low, which tells us psychologically buyers are stepping in and pushing prices back up. And if you're bullish, that's more important than sellers pushing it down, right? If buyers are going to stop it from falling, that's more important than a seller pushing it down. So there you go. And let's see, Bitcoin. 1.19%, it sounds like a nice number, but really is not much. Grand scheme of things, I don't know if we're done. I still think there's some downside movement here. You notice it is a shooting star today. From a candle perspective, as you guys all know, shooting star needs to be after an uptrend, which it is not. So we have the candle itself is a shooting star, but it's not at the top of an uptrend, so it's not really that impactful. But it does allude to lower prices for Bitcoin going forward here. You would draw it that way anyway. All right, what time we got? 29. Man, I'm getting to half-hour shows here, everybody. That's all I had to talk about for today. Every other thing that I've done, I made no new trades today. It's been so busy building all this content and getting the studio fixed and trying to get things working up here. Anything else you guys want to discuss for today's trading? I know that there were some pretty high flyers, and I did get a question about some pharmaceutical stock, which I really didn't care for, was EVAX. Let me bring it in. EVAX. EVAX. Oops. All right, so I got an email asking me to talk about this one. I don't know about it, and you guys know my thoughts on biotech. I don't like them. I don't touch them. This chart looks like absolute garbage, right? Lower lows, lower highs, and today you have a huge update. Now everybody wants to know about it because it's up 113%. So yeah, I wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole. I can't remember who sent this to me, but not interested. It's not it's biotech and pharmaceutical, which I generally don't touch anyway, but I would not touch a chart that looks like this. Now, one that might be interesting is Trump's ETF. So here's Donald Trump's ETF, which went crazy again. It's been going nuts over the past week. I didn't really want to bring it up, but here it is. Down 24% today. Probably could have figured this one out after the Iowa caucus that it was going to be, the talk du jour, and now Trump is back. There we go. What happened to Geo? Don't know. No, it's not that bad. That's not that bad. I mean, if you look at the candle for today, even though it has a long topping tails, it it's just about the same range as the one we saw on Monday, so nothing that dramatic. What the tail was is it's broader markets, right? Almost everything today in the markets had that long topping tail or a topping tail, and then sold off, right? There's your S&P, there's the Russell, there's the NASDAQ, right? So it's going to be broader where you see that kind of surge up, and then near the end of the day, everything came rushing to the south side. Now, why was it? Well, if we go to our economic calendar for today, for the 24th, which is, by the way, National Education Day. One of my trivia questions from last night was January 24th is known as National Education Day. So learn something today. Here's my, so the way I do my trivia, most of you guys probably don't live in California, but if you do live in Southern California, you should swing by and play trivia one night. It's fun. I do it every Tuesday night at a local bar here in town. One of the ways I do it is I have 5 rounds of trivia, and then the final round I do like a Jeopardy question where you can wager up to a certain amount of your score, and if you get it wrong, you lose those points. So my wager question, trivia question for you guys, type it in the chat what you think. Here is the trivia question. According to the Guinness Book of World Records, what is the best-selling book of all time? There you go. What do you think the best-selling book of all time is? Go ahead and type it in the chat. It's an interesting one. I got a good mix of answers, but there's a pretty clear choice, in my opinion. All right, DWAC. Liz, I don't... After my last experience with SPACs, specialty purpose acquisition companies, I'm not touching a SPAC. And DWAC, I think, is a money grab. I think it's just it's a way to capitalize off of Trump's popularity. Who knows if it's ever going to be anything. I got lucky with the SPAC I was in. I actually made some money on it, but I'm not getting involved with any more SPACs going forward. All right, I see a few of you going, well, the Bible. I had a Harry Potter one. Someone said Harry Potter. Another one said Gatsby. And another one said, what did they say? Catcher in the Rye, which I thought was interesting. No, it's the Bible. Yep, you guys are right. You would have all won the wager there last night. Yeah, the Bible is the best-selling book of all time. And I would argue, is it really selling? Because a lot of them are given away, I think, right? They're giving away to help the cause. Anyway, I was Guinness World Records all the time. Me too. I had the Guinness Book of World Records book. I was fascinated by it. But now, there's Guinness Book of World Records for everything. Actually, when I was doing power trading radio, you guys might appreciate this. In case you haven't figured out, I love talking about markets. And I could talk for a long time. And my old producer, he says, hey, what we should do is we should get the Guinness Book of World Records out here, and you could do the longest continuous live broadcast ever. And I was like, I'm in. I mean, if someone was going to foot the bill, because it costs a lot of money to get the Guinness Book of World Records to put you in the book. It's thousands of dollars. If I remember correctly, it was like $10,000 to do it. But if somebody wanted to pay for that or wants to set it up, I will do the longest live stream broadcast ever in human history without leaving set. I'm happy to do it. That'd be fun. We could talk for it'd probably have to be like 48 hours, maybe 72-hour show. That'd be pretty crazy. But I could do it. Give me some Dr. Pepper. I'm in. Don't shut SPACs either. It came up on a scan. Yeah. The DWAC is one ever since Trump won Iowa, the caucus, now New Hampshire. You can expect DWAC to be very volatile. Right? If you want to be a gambler and play around with this one, go for it. Personally, I wouldn't touch it. I don't need to be. I'm not that kind of gambler. Not for me. Let's see. Yeah, hotels buy them by the fistful. I was actually told, Liz, that the hotels don't buy them. They're given to the hotels, which I thought was interesting. What was the record for it? I don't think there was a record, Liz. I didn't see one when we looked it up. So I guess I could have done a shorter one. But look, if you're going to do something like that and pay that money, you better set the bar really, really high. Like I would try to go a couple of days at least of live streaming. I met 3 people that are in the Guinness Book of World Records, 2 at one event, running event, all were marathon. Those guys are crazy. Ultra marathoners, man, that's a whole different breed of crazy. I don't know how you do it. I mean, I don't even want to run to the corner. So, what do you think about Dr. Pepper stock with Keurig, right? Keurig Dr. Pepper. Let's check it out. I'm a huge fan of the beverage Dr. Pepper. That is not promoting the stock. Let's be clear about that. What do I think about it? So KDP is a ticker symbol for Keurig Dr. Pepper. Ironic combination, but personally, Michael, I don't like the chart. I mean, look at the price chart here going back into, this goes back into 2016. While it looks great from 2016 up until its peak here in 2022, it's been selling off ever since. So it's been 2 years of just predominantly sell-off. It's making lower highs, right? We could put moving averages on here and see it's below the moving averages. So at lower highs, lower lows, as much as I love Dr. Pepper, it looks like this thing's going to be going lower. So I would not buy it. If anything, I'd be looking to short that one. With my mother's drink, I don't know why, but Dr. Pepper is an addictive one. I think they make it like when you crack a can, you can't just sip a Dr. Pepper. It's like you take that first sip and it turns into a chug, and next thing you know, 3 chugs later, your entire can is gone. It's like, it's magic. How did that happen? All right, so let's go look at that economic calendar for today, just to see what happened and why we saw some of the moves we did. If you look at the big stuff, which was first off Canada, so with the Canadian dollar, they were expected to keep their rates right where they're at, and they did. So no big shocker there from Canada. On the second level stuff here, you had manufacturing numbers coming in for most of the world, and almost everybody disappointed. There was a lot of disappointing numbers there. You can see the French beat it. The Italians missed on services. Actually, services were missed by France and Germany and the EU, and the US we actually beat slightly. So we're slightly improving, but remember 50 on these flash manufacturing and services numbers, 50 means it's not going anywhere. It's just flat. So we are pretty much flat to no growth in manufacturing and services. And if you look here, the good news is, this is the manufacturing PMI for the United States. The good news is it's above 50 again. It's been below 50 for quite some time, going back in November of 2022. Historically, if you look at this, we're almost always above this. Right? It's shocking to see us so low. So it's a good sign that we're kind of getting our levels back up above zero for the manufacturing. And here's what you got for services, a similar picture where you very rarely see us below, except for the 2020 initial pandemic piece and a drawdown back in 2022. But all in all, starting to look a little bit better with regards to services and manufacturing PMI. Now, as far as other announcements, there are some big stuff happening later on in the week. We do have GDP numbers coming out tomorrow, so I'm just going to jump right into that here. For tomorrow, you have a rate announcement for the euro. Keep an eye on that one if you're trading the euro, guys. That will have a big impact on it. You can see at the top there, they're expected to stay at 4.5%. So no changes for the 3 countries with rate announcements this week. That's going to be Canada, Japan, and the euro. Euro expected to stay at 4.5%. Now, for us, the number that's of interest here is the GDP number. This is quarter over quarter. Previous quarter was 4.9%. Now they're talking 2%. So they're expecting there to be a fairly sharp decline in GDP. Remember, we talked about how Jerome Powell has made it clear that he felt that the economic data was looking much better, that GDP was showing growth, and he made a point. He said, if we start to see contraction in some of this data, specifically pointing out GDP, then we might have to rethink our policy. Remember, at this point, the policy for the United States is we are going to start to lower rates again. Let's lower rates starting in maybe March, April. However, if GDP declines sharply, if unemployment rises sharply, or if inflation rises sharply, that whole discussion is going to change. So I'm very curious to see what happens with the GDP numbers. More importantly, what data is it in the GDP that's causing us the most problems and the decline from 4.9 to 2.0? That's a pretty sharp drop there in the GDP data. I was back on Forex. Let's go there. And then other data, you have durable goods orders, which are expected to drop significantly. Just so you can see here, durable goods orders. These are items that are, 12 to 18 months, I think. What do they call it? 18 months? They have the definition of it here. 3 years. Life expectancy of 3 years. You're talking appliances, cars, airplanes, things like that. Durable goods orders are expected to drop very sharply. But notice, it looks kind of like an EKG on here anyway. It's like one big up month, one big down month, one big up month, one big down month. So I'm not so worried about that one. It's the trend, if any, that forms that I'm interested in for the durable goods orders. You also have new home sales, which is expected to surge tomorrow. That's optimistic, and I think that has a lot to do with the drop in mortgage rates. It's dropped sharply. Now it's starting to creep back up again. So the waves of financial markets are impacting some of this data. We'll see how it is tomorrow. New home sales comes out at 7 a.m. That's 30 minutes into the trading day. 1 hour before the market's open, we get our GDP data as well as durable goods orders. So keep your eye on that one. Now, as far as earnings, since I'm just running through everything here to wrap up the show, let's go and see what's happening on Thursday. 179 companies reporting, and notice some very big names in here. You've got Intel, Visa, Western Digital, Blackstone Group, Archer Daniels Midlands, Valero Group, American Airlines, Northrop Grumman. You've got Comcast, Nokia. I mean, the list goes on. Southwest Airlines. I think there's an Alaska Airlines in here. So it's, and one of my personal favorites. I used to love trading KLA Tencor. CLAC was one of my favorites. So a lot of companies reporting earnings. You got some pretty decent economic announcements happening, but really I think the biggest impact for tomorrow is going to be how the markets perceive Tesla on that opening bell tomorrow. My guess is it'll probably drift lower. I don't see an implosion or a crash. I just see it drifting lower for tomorrow. So that's going to do it for me for today. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you have anything you want me to discuss, I know I wanted, you guys had some topics that you'd like me to discuss. Let me know what they are. You can email me at TraderMerlin@gmail.com, or you can go to any of the YouTube videos, put your comments down below those videos. I always appreciate those. I do check them all, so trust me, I check all the comments, and I usually incorporate those into our upcoming show. So that's going to do it. Thank you guys so much. I will look forward to your questions, comments, feedback, etc. If you like the show, hit that thumbs up button, share it with somebody, and I will see you all in tomorrow's trading session. Take care.